Morning, everyone. And first of all, the real truth is the Torah right now is just a bonus. It's just a bonus. Getting together with the Chevra is what we'll say the Iker, and we'll repeat a line that we said from the Tanya in Igeres HaKodesh. This is officially the slot of Tanya Shir. So let's repeat the line that we've said many times from the Tanya in Igeres HaKodesh. He writes that when 10 Yidden get together, and it's actually, he's not even writing about learning, just 10 neshamas gathering together, writes the Tanya. The power is so incredible that if a malach would come down, it would be burnt from the Kedusha. That's what the Tanya writes. Now, all the more so if you're getting together to learn Torah. I actually just learned the Mishnah in Avos. I'm a few days behind in the third parak, in which it writes about a Sarah that gets together and learn the Shechina, Shurei B'nei, and the Shechina is with them. If 3, the Shechina is there. If 2, the Shechina is there. If 1 is the Shechina is there. And Rabbeinu Yoina there goes to explain, so if the Shechina is there by 10, 3, 2, and 1, then what's the Maila of 10? Okay. But we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 10. So the Kedusha of just people getting together is absolutely incredible. So I was driving in this morning, and I put on a shir, and it's very interesting, because the first line, he starts talking about V'yisem Nikiyim. V'yisem Nikiyim is an interesting halacha that you should be naki, you should be clean from other people. What does that mean? That means, you take a drink, and let's say you already made a shahakol. You tell the person, by the way, I already made a shahakol. I'm sure everyone has heard such a thing, and sometimes you wonder, like, did I ask you if you, put on tefillin today? Did I ask you, if you said Ashiyatzer? Like, what are you telling me about your shahakol? The reason is, V'yisem Nikiyim. So I heard that. And then as I kept on driving, apparently Waze wasn't aware that the 6 was closed. And I figured, okay, what do you do when the road is closed? You just keep on going straight, and Waze figures it out. So I go straight. And Waze adds on a few more minutes. I'm like, okay, no. And I go another 5 miles and realize, what was its incredible rerouting? It just went in a tremendous circle, right back to the 6. And that didn't work out well because the road was still closed. And Baruch Hashem, at that point, I then continued driving the other direction. And we also turned on Google Maps, so public service announcement. Everyone, please tell family and friends who are traveling upstate, double check or only use Google Maps. Apparently, Waze has not known that the 6 is closed yet. And Share has been sponsored by Google Maps, yes. So, and Baruch Hashem, we made it. So, as I walked in this morning, very late to Shachris, this is what I was thinking. V'yisem Nikiyim, you want to tell people, you plan, you get up early, you leave extra time for traffic, you double check Waze, the night before, and wherever you're going, and you think everything is good, you're going to be nice and early. And then before you know it, Hashem has other plans. So, but this idea of V'yisem Nikiyim is an incredible idea because it shows us that we have to be careful what people think about us. We have to be careful. And even though, there's a whole school of thought of Navardik, whether you know or you don't, which is you do yours. You don't have to worry about what every person says about you. And it's a complicated sugya. But to make it very simple, be careful. And I'm going to give a not real reason why you should be careful what people think of you. Not real reason, meaning not what the Torah really means. Do you know what the not real reason is? Because if you care what people think about you, you'll end up doing the right thing. You'll end up doing the right thing. I don't know, we'll talk about ourselves, are we really holding on a level that we do things for, the purest motives and we don't care about what anyone else is? You know what? Care what people say. Care if they think negatively if you show up late to davening. Care if they think whatever of you if you've never seen it to share. Care if they think whatever, when it comes to tzedakah campaigns, we always say, people like to say donate anonymously. I don't want anyone to know. But the answer is the opposite, which Ramesha Feinstein writes in the Tshuva, and it's already Seven Shulchan Aruch. They know, we're mafarsei ma'aseh mitzvah. Why are we mafarsei it? All of a sudden now, the answer is because it encourages other people to do the same. So that's really number one, which I like to share, is the V'yisem Nikiyim. Be careful what other people think of you because you'll end up being a better person. But the main idea I wanted to share is from this past week's parsha, which will bring us into the 9 days, into hopefully the Yom Tif of Tisha B'Av, which is the Bnei Slavchad, a very interesting parsha that the daughters of Slavchad, they wanted a portion, girls don't get a portion. And the question is, what did Slavchad, if a kid does something good, we have to wonder, what did his father do to merit such incredible children? What did the father do? What did the father do? And if you look a little bit into Slavchad, you find something fascinating. The Mefarshim explain, the Mekoshish Eitzim, the one that was Mechalel Shabbos and was killed for it, was Slavchad. So Slavchad was a Mechalel Shabbos, he was Chayiv Misa, and he's the one that his children get all this airtime in the Torah, that they're so incredible, that they want a portion. Well, what exactly is going on over here? So the Maharsha explains, absolutely fascinating, that even though Slavchad was Mechal Shabbos and he was Chayiv Misa, he did it for the right reasons. Now, it's a difficult sugya if anyone wants to look into it. What exactly does that mean? How can you be Mechal Shabbos for the right reasons? And he explains that Klal Yisrael wasn't holding on a level of Shmira Shabbos, so he felt he had to take matters into his own hands, and really he wasn't Chayiv Misa because he did it for alternative reasons. Malacha shein tzrich legufa, but Bezdin had a paskin he was Chayiv. Okay, complicated ideas. Let's not get lost in the sugya. But what do we see from here? What greater thing does any person want than for his children to be erlich, to be upstanding, to be good kids? I don't think there's anything more than anyone wants if you think about it. How much money, we could just start with that. How much money do we spend on our children? Whether it's physical things, whether it's Torah related, tuition and all the like. The amount of money, the amount of time, the amount of energy. What greater? And we all know, I'll never forget, when I was younger, I saw a very, very wealthy man. And he was talking to another guy in shul who I happen to know. And that guy is, doesn't really have any money, but he has a nice family, a bunch of kids, a nice family. And this very, very wealthy man has, one daughter who went off the derech, and he's divorced. And it was fascinating how this multi-millionaire talking to this simple guy with jealousy, with such jealousy, how his kids, and he has such a beautiful family, And we all know you can have all the money in the world, but unfortunately, if it doesn't work out in one's own shalom bayis, it doesn't work out with one's children, what's it all worth? Which really the world at large screams this, right? We all know that all the money in the world, they're all depressed. What's going on? You have all the money in the world, why are you depressed? The answer is because all the money doesn't really buy happiness. Happiness comes from a place of wholesomeness. Happiness comes from a place of having a beautiful family, etc., etc. So how do we get there? What greater bracha could there be? So we learn from Slavchad, the answer is when you do things for the real and right purposes, that filters down to your children. What comes to mind is the words of Rav Moshe Feinstein, in which he says, why did the whole dar go off the derech? I think it's famous. Rav Moshe says, because they all kept Shabbos, right? They all gave up their jobs for Shabbos. So everyone wonders, I don't understand, if they all gave up their jobs for Shabbos, we probably wouldn't be able to do such a thing. So why did all their kids go off the derech? And I think it's famous that Rav Moshe says that, they gave up their jobs for Shabbos, but they would come home on a Friday night complaining, it's shver to be a yid, So their kids grew up in what type of household? In a household of Shmira Shabbos. We give up our job for Shabbos. But with the negativity, with the it's shver. So says Rav Moshe. So that's why the kids went off the derech. Because if the father is sitting there complaining about Yiddishkeit always, why would the kid want that? On the flip side is you see Slavchad. That's doing everything for the pure and beautiful purpose. And we don't necessarily understand the whole sugya. But whatever it means that he had to be Machalel Shabbos for the right reason, what it meant is he was doing what he felt and what was the right thing to do. And that filters down to the children. So when we think about all the actions that we do, and we think about, how to live our life, when it gets to the 9 days, there's a sif in Shulchan Aruch, the first sif that's sort of forgotten. There's all these halachas, you can't do laundry, and you're not supposed to shower, and you're not supposed to do. But the first halacha, what's the first halacha in Shulchan Aruch? To be mima'atin b'simcha, to lessen your simcha. That's halacha. And to the point that the Pasuk discussed, what's the ramifications of being mima'atin b'simcha? Is there somewhere that we could pinpoint? And it doesn't mean to walk around depressed. It's absolutely not what it means. And if anyone says that, it's completely wrong and the opposite. Of course, one should always be b'simcha, and of course, one should always have a simcha sachayim, there's no question. But it means to lessen the things that bring one to external joys. That's the reason why we don't make chasanas, etc. So that attitude, what's that attitude? That attitude is, can you shower? Let's just focus on, the most complicated. Everyone knows you're not supposed to shower, but nowadays we all need a shower. So what's the take home? The take home is, take mematin b'simcha, and use that halacha to give a little bit of feeling to all the other halachas. Can you shower? You need a shower. And some Rabbanim get up and they scream, does anyone call during Avelos to ask if they could shower? And I was at a shir, and an older Rav said that. And another Rav there said, yeah, they do call during Avelos if they could shower. They do call. He says, what do you mean? How can you call? He said, that's what they're holding. That's what they're holding. That's what they're holding. They can't handle it. They can't handle it. And that's real. And that's real. And this is coming from a big rough. Names are irrelevant. So the point is, but when someone calls if they could shower during Avelos, the call is that I feel disgusting, I can't live with myself, and I want to get rid of the filth. And when the psak comes in that, okay, you could get rid of the filth, it's like, okay, I could do that. Do they sit there in a steaming hot shower for 20 minutes? Of course not. Do they understand to use cold or lukewarm or freezing cold each other? Of course they do. That's taking the mimatin b'simcha and injecting it into the halachas. If one lives his life that way, that's something that goes down to the children. It's not, it's the 9 days I can't shower. It's, wait, we have a realization. We don't want to be sitting on the floor by Tisha B'Av. No one wants that. We spoke last week that why do we want Beis HaMikdash? We want the Beis HaMikdash because we crave that connection. What more does anyone want than a connection? What more does a child want than its parents' attention? What more does a friend want than his friend's love? What more does a spouse want than their spouse's time and affection? What do we want from Hashem? That exact item. We want Hashem's love, Hashem's care, and we want to feel it. When there's going to be a Beis HaMikdash, when you walk in and when this gorgeous garage is transported as a cornerstone of the Beis HaMikdash, and you walk inside, you know what the difference is going to be? When you finish davening like we just finished davening, you're going to feel something different. You're going to feel that connection. We all want that. We all want that. So how do we get there? We get there by being real people. Get there by being real people. And if we are to follow what halacha dictates and take it from the beginning to the end, then we inject the mematin b'simcha into the halachas. You know what's going to happen? That will filter down to our children. And it's not going to be something like, we can't shower, we can't this. It's a feeling, it's an attitude. Anyone who's ever been in Yerushalayim during the 9 days, you realize how much we've totally missed the boat here in America. It's fascinating how in the world of a real Yerushalmi, the 9 days is like, it's real. Aside from the fact that they're all smelly and disgusting, but it's like they actually walk around different people for 9 days. Okay, so we're not holding there. We're not holding there. Fine. But I can tell you one thing, that they impart to their children a real feeling that it's the 9 days because they feel it inside and they give that over. So we all want to do that. Why do we want to do that? Because we want our children to be able to do that. We want our grandchildren to be able to do that. And we want that. So how do we do that? We do that is by being real, authentic people. And real, authentic people, we learn from Slavchad, is to do what's right in all situations. And just like Slavchad took a stand and he did what was right, and that filtered down to his children. If we all try to do what's right, but remember, it's mimatin b'simcha, 100%. But not mimatin b'simcha in your house. That's not the place. Your house is a place for simcha. Everyone's house, Yiddishkeit is a place for simcha. Anyone who, we quoted Rav Moshe, shver to be a yid. So someone says, 1 second, he said it's shver to be a yid, then he said mimatin b'simcha to lessen in simcha. How do those two things work? They work beautifully together. It's not a contradiction at all. Mimatin b'simcha just means that within the things that we're doing, we lessen it a little bit. So that was the one thought I wanted to share as we're about to walk into the 9 days, is we have to be a little bit more real people. When we say V'li Yerushalayim, when we say V'nei Yerushalayim, when we think about Yerushalayim, we think about the Beis HaMikdash, a little more authenticity, a little more realness. And it's difficult because we live in a world of fakeness, obviously, and the whole world around us screams the opposite of everything we're talking about. So it's difficult to be real in that situation. But the more that we try a little bit during the 9 days to be more real people, and do it Shalei Lishma, as we started off with. Do it Shalei Lishma. Daven with a little more kavanah because someone's watching you. Don't worry about it. We'll be balishma. The more that we'll try to be real people, the more that we'll try to hold to the higher standards. We'll take 9 days. And you know what? You'll feel it a little bit in the shower. You make it a little bit colder, maybe even 2 drops colder, maybe even all the way cold. And maybe you'll be freezing, and maybe you'll take that 2-minute shower, and you'll get rid of your filth, and you'll get out. And you know what? And you'll say, you know what? I did something for the Beis HaMikdash. I did something to show that my life is different because I don't have the Beis HaMikdash, that I'm in a little bit of Avelos, that I'm not trying just to live an external life, not trying just to live what everyone says and everyone does, but rather living something a little more real, a little more authentic, a little more connected. And the more that B'siyata D'Shemaya, we try to connect in a very deep and meaningful way, hopefully, B'siyata D'Shemaya, Hashem will say, you want to connect to me? I'm going to give you back my house so I could connect to you, so we could really feel Hashem in our lives, which is nothing better than that. So, the bracha that we'll end off with, which is a tefillah, that on Tisha B'Av we should not be sitting on the floor. On Tisha B'Av should be the most incredible yontif that it will be b'siyata d'shmaya, and hopefully if everyone does their little part, I'm going to end off with a 60-second story, just because it just came to my mind. I wasn't going to end off with the story, but now that it just came to my mind, I'll end off with a 60-second story. To make a very long story very short, there was a boy sitting shiva for his mother, and the boy wouldn't talk to anyone, would not talk to anyone, and his father was trying to find people to talk to this boy, and the father was at the kaisel, and his father saw a group of yeshiva guys that were sitting and singing, and he saw the kid that was leading the whole group, and the father randomly approaches this guy, says, Shalom Aleichem, you don't know me, I don't know you, but I have a kid who's sitting shiva for, it was father, whatever it was one generation off, so he wasn't at the shiva house. Okay, leave out the details. And he tells this yeshiva guy, you look like you really have a gishmak, can you come talk to my, whatever it was, grandson, whatever it was. And this kid's like, how can you say no? How can you say no? So he says, okay. And he goes to the shiva house, and this yeshiva bacher, this 18-year-old kid, walked to the shiva house, and he thinks he's going to walk in, and there's no one there, and he sees the kid's sitting there in the corner, and he, sits down, and he talks to the father, and to this, and the kid just leaves. And the guy comes over, oh, could you go talk to this kid? We want you to talk to him. Maybe he'll talk to you. Okay. So he finds the kid sitting in the back room, and he walks into the room, and the kid just sitting there, the kid won't talk. He sits there for 2 minutes, and he figures, okay, I failed. He gets up, and he's about to walk out, and the kid screams out, hey! He's like, oh. And the kid says, can I talk to you for a minute? Obviously, that's why I'm here. He says, yeah, and he sits back down. And the kid just starts opening up. He realizes that this random guy came to talk to him, and he felt so warm by it. So he starts opening up, and he starts telling him about the whole tragedy, etc. And he ends, and he tries to comfort him, and he's about to walk out. And the kid says, I want to tell you one more thing. He says, yeah. He says, you're from America, right? The guy says, yeah. He says, when you go back to America, tell everyone to daven for Am Yisrael. End the story. And he walks out, and this kid was realizing, this little Israeli kid, what's he worried about? He's sitting there sitting shiva, and what's he telling someone else about? Worry about Am Yisrael. Don't worry about me. Daven for Klal Yisrael at large. So, Mirz Hashem, if we focus more on Am Yisrael, focus more on Beis HaMikdash, focus more on Hashem, something that we should be doing, we daven the words every day, but do it more in a real way, hopefully it will spread one person to the next, and hopefully, b'siyata d'shmaya, we will